And thank you everybody for participating. Although I can't see you, hi, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day and attending this. So just wanted to welcome and introduce our panelists. We have, in no particular order, based on where your screen is, we have Mike McGee, our PAR CEO. Hi, Mike. Oh, say hi, there you go. We have Alex Charlton, who is the PAR Director of Public Policy and Political Affairs. Jamie Ridge from Suburban Realtors Alliance, the President and CEO. And we have Brian Preston, the Bright MLS District Vice President. So thank you all. Just wanted to welcome you. I've spent untold Zoom meetings with PAR leadership, NAR leadership, and our Bucks County Association of Realtors leadership team and our board of directors, getting the latest information, polling people, taking the pulse of our members, seeing what they need and advocating for those needs. So if there's anything that anybody in the participants, any of the brokers on this call or managers that we can be doing for you or your agents to keep you safe, then that's what we want to do. We still are under the governor's order to stay home and stay safe, and that means no in-person showings, no leaving your house. Anything that you can do from your home is fine, but anything outside of the home right now really is not allowed. There is a little bit of a leeway there for transactions that took place up until March 18th. I am also an appraiser, so there are some inspections that we can do. We can do an exterior drive-by type of inspection, but we cannot go into any properties, vacant or otherwise. So with that, I'd like to start the meeting with Mike McGee and Alex Charlton giving us an update.
I'll start off by just providing a kind of a broad overview, because I'm sure what a lot of you guys want to hear is what's happening legislatively and kind of where we are with the Senate Bill 613. But since this started on March 19th, PAR has been very active with the governor's office trying to get a waiver for real estate services to be identified as a life-sustaining business. And, you know, look, I recognize that within our membership, that's not a 100% popular position, but I think PAR's leadership team, the legislative committee, are falling back on what our mission statement is, which is to, I mean, this is a short version, but is to have a predictable and understandable marketplace for realtors and for consumers. And fundamentally, I think where you saw the leadership team fall down is we are hearing stories where people are having their shelter, their homes, where they're going to be living kind of in jeopardy. They've sold a house, they're not allowed to move into their new house, their lease is ending, they're not allowed to move into the new apartment. I know somebody personally whose father is moved into an assisted living facility, and they need to sell a house which they have an offer on and go to settlement to pay for the costs of that care. And the question of whether they can go to settlement is up in the air. So I think that's really been the focus of the leadership team, is let's try to get the real estate industry reclassified as a life-sustaining business. We did file a waiver request. When the governor's office, or when the federal Department of Homeland Security modified the CISA guidelines, which are CISA guidelines, to include real estate services as an essential business, PAR did file a second letter asking that the governor reclassify real estate as a life-sustaining business. The governor changed his position. He had been using the CISA guidelines to identify who was going to be a life-sustaining business. After the federal guidelines changed, he changed his guidelines to say that he was only going to rely on the March 24th definition of what is essential and what's not essential. And that goes back to why we were pushing Senate Bill 613, because in that definition, or in those, the March 28th version, real estate services, and it's not just us, it's mortgage companies, it's title companies, it's all the people who are important to make a settlement happen, were included in that March 28th definition. And that's why we pursued the legislation. So I'll just stop, because I think that provides a fairly broad overview of where we're at. And Alex should kind of explain what happened through the legislative process, and then we can get into specific questions or answers that you might have.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us on. I apologize, I can't see you, so if your eyes start to glaze over, maybe Pam can give me a high sign that I'm talking too long. So Senate Bill 613 was amended in the House to include language that would essentially require the state to follow the CISA guidelines that Mike was just talking about, which would include real estate as an essential industry, certainly as a provider of shelter. The bill was voted out of the House essentially along party lines. There were two Montgomery County Republicans who did vote in the opposition with the Democrats, but the bill did pass. It was moved on to the Senate, where it was again voted on by party lines. The governor has already announced that he intends to veto the bill, unfortunately. But what I do want to say is a big thank you to our membership for helping us in our call to action on the bill. Typical legislative call to actions that we've done in the past will get anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000 responses to the call to action, reaching out to their state representative to express their support or opposition to a bill. This piece of legislation in particular, we had almost 8,000 members responding to it, which is really tremendous numbers. Over 20% of our membership took part in the call to action, which is highly unusual in any industry to see that level of participation. So thank you very much for your help in that. Yesterday, the legislation was passed by the Senate, so we immediately started up a call to action to the governor as well, asking for him to support the legislation. And that is actually still open call to action because he has not vetoed it yet, although he has said he will. He has not put pen to paper. And that call to action is not even 12 hours old, well, just barely over 12 hours old at this point. And we've already got close to 5,000 responses to that as well. So thank you for being engaged in this. It certainly makes my job easier when we have a membership behind me that shows our strength. Unfortunately, as Mike noted, the governor is not going to be signing the bill. He will veto it. We are working on next steps with the legislature on how we're going to move forward through this. There's a couple of areas that are being actively pursued right now. Your friend and mine, Todd Polinchuk, who's now a state representative, is currently working on legislation that is directed specifically at the real estate market and bringing that industry back online, whereas Senate Bill 613 was much broader. It was addressing all of the industries in the CISA guidelines. Representative Polinchuk's legislation will be tailored just towards the real estate industry and the related businesses that are involved in it. He will be, I believe he dropped the bill yesterday officially. We are working with legislative leadership to have that bill come up for consideration next week when they reconvene for session. So we will be able to keep everybody posted as that issue moves along. Another area that we're working on is addressing what we do when the governor does lift the emergency declaration. He is not there yet, but it's clear from the comments that he's made publicly that they are getting to that point. Secretary Levine has announced that we are starting to see that flattening of the curve, and we're starting to look down the downside of the curve. And the governor has joined in with a number of other state governors in the region for a coalition about opening businesses back up across the region. So we know that they're in the conversations of getting that part together. I've been in talks with the governor's office about what we would do moving forward. Obviously, it's not going to be a grand opening where businesses are just going to snap back online. So how do we make sure that real estate is done in a proper approach so that you can actually continue to work. There's a number of legislators that we're also working with in that measure to work on legislation that would help stimulate the economy, and obviously focused on the real estate industry in particular. Opportunities that we've been discussing are things like, is there an opportunity to waive or offer as a credit payments on the realty transfer tax for home purchases? Is there an ability to prohibit use and occupancy ordinances, at least temporarily? And these are all concepts that we're still working on. There's no legislation specifically addressing these yet, but we're working on those with the legislature right now. One of the important pieces that did get passed by the House and the Senate and is likely to be signed by the governor is another Senate bill that addresses, among other things, remote online notarizations. That's Senate Bill 841. So there's three items within 841 that are important to the real estate industry. Probably the most important one for you is the notarization ability. So this does permit for remote online notarizations. This is not a long-term remote online notarization. This provision expires 60 days after the emergency declaration is lifted. So it is a temporary use for remote online notarization. There is legislation out there that would provide for permanent remote online notarization, and we're working on that bill with the legislature. But this one was done in the immediacy so that we could address the ability as quickly as possible. The governor is expected to sign that bill today. And if he does, the effect would be immediate, as long as a notary has the capability set up for the remote online notarization. Some do and some don't. PAR will provide some additional information on that, so we'll be sending that out. Hank Lerner, our legal, is reviewing the legislation to provide the specifics for it, so we'll send more information out on that. The other two pieces of Senate Bill 841 that I think are valuable for realtors to know about, the first part of it is property tax collection. So any entity that collects property taxes, municipalities, counties if they do it, school districts, they have two options. They're not forced to follow these, but they are options that they have at their disposal. One is to collect at the discounted rate that they offer up to August 31st, so extending the discount period. The other option that they have that they can elect to take on is to waive any fee or penalty that they would typically assign to a late payment up to December 31st. So this will give an opportunity for property owners to delay some of their property tax payments without having to pay an increased rate or any fees or penalties on it. Again, that's only if the municipality elects or the school district elects to take those options. They are not forced to accept them, although I would believe that many probably will. So I would reach out to your county commissioners, your municipal commissioners, and your school district leaders as well to request that they do that. The other piece of it relates to local government meetings. The legislation provides an authority for them, or an authorization for them to hold teletown hall type meetings like what we're doing now, to have their municipal meetings. So they will be able to vote on bills and items that come before them. All of the requirements for advertising are still in effect. They would still have to advertise that they're having these meetings. They would still have to provide an opportunity for the public to comment at those meetings. And they'll have to direct you to where to find those meetings. So what the link would be, or if it's going to be done through their website or whatever portal they would use. As I know, the governor is expected to sign that bill, so we should be seeing that hopefully today. I would hope he would sign that bill. And unfortunately, he'll also be vetoing at the same time Senate Bill 613. The other area that we've been tracking closely that we know is really important to the membership is the unemployment compensation. This will be run through the state's Department of Labor and Industry. They handle standard unemployment compensation currently, so they will also be handling the pandemic unemployment compensation. In our conversations with that department, they've been having technical difficulties getting the new application online. It is totally different from what they currently provide or request for standard unemployment, because you're in a different field with the self-employed members. We have gotten some tentative information that they anticipate this Friday going online. I will caution that they have been hoping to get this online for quite a few days or weeks now. So while they're hoping to do Friday, they are not guaranteeing it. Of course, once they get that online, we've been checking in with them regularly. As soon as that link is available, we will be sending that out to the membership. We'll also work on drilling down what the application looks like so that we can help provide some guidance in filling out the forms as well. But that may take a little longer for us to be able to digest as well. So we'll certainly be sending out the information on where to go to apply, but then we'll also follow up with providing information on how to apply. I think that covers everything I have. Pam, if there's anything else you want me to address, I'm happy to do it.
I think that covers the questions that were submitted ahead of time, and I think it's pretty comprehensive. And there are no other questions that have come in, so I think that we're good to move on. And thank you very much, Alex and Mike, for your great insight. And so, Scott, do you want to introduce Jamie?
Jamie Ridge from our Suburban Realtors Alliance. Hey, Jamie, let's hear what's going on in
All right,
your
great.
world.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Pam. As Alex and Mike are very focused on state issues, we are focused on municipal issues, as hopefully all of you know. And so we've been watching municipal governments and how they've been operating through the situation very closely. One of the first things that we did after the government's orders came down, we called all of our municipalities, 238 in our 4 counties, to see what was happening. And as you can guess, it was very different in just about every situation. No uniformity whatsoever. So it does make it difficult. What we're seeing are some hopeful things. We're seeing some municipalities that realize the importance of settlements and home sales, and they've done their best to get buyers and sellers to the settlement table. They've made agreements, they've made waivers available, they've adopted new affidavits that take the place of interior inspections, and that's all been very helpful. At the other extreme, we've seen municipalities that have literally just shut down their code departments, and it has become pretty much impossible to settle there if you would like a use and occupancy permit when they require those. So those are the extremes, and we've got some in between as well. One of the more helpful things that we've seen, I'll talk about a couple. Number one, we've seen an affidavit that's now being used in several places. Several weeks before the governor's announcement, Aston Township in Delaware County introduced an affidavit system that only requires that sellers and buyers sign an agreement saying that they have working smoke detectors, working CO detectors, and also numbers on the mailbox. That allows townships to void the interior inspection, and even if they have exterior inspections, some of them are still doing those exterior inspections. As somebody mentioned earlier, this thing is changing every day, and so we're seeing municipalities kind of clamping down on the ways that they're working at this point. But we do know that some are still available and trying to get these use and occupancy certificates to our members. We worked closely with Falls Township to get 2 agreements done. Number one, the first agreement allows homes where the initial inspection has been done to sign an agreement. The township will then give you, it does require, saying that you have smoke detectors and CO detectors. And it also it requires that you have your certifications done for the heater and electrical components, but it does allow you to go to settlement with an active UNO from the township, which is better than going without one. So that was the first one. The second one from Falls Township, which we have not seen used yet, would allow you to go forward without an initial township inspection. And so as of yet, we have not heard of that one being used, but it is available and it is on our municipal database. So if you're doing any work in Falls Township, you can find that information in our municipal database. Alex mentioned that Todd Pollenchok is working on legislation that would impact real estate specifically. And one of the components of that would be, there is a municipal section, and it's short, but it basically says that municipalities would not be allowed to do these inspections during this time of COVID-19. Now, that would create a similar situation that we have now, where townships may choose to go in after the settlement and do an inspection. And yes, that's not perfect. There would have to be some kind of an agreement between the buyer and the seller to, agree on escrow money being privately placed in that instance, or just agreeing that the buyer would take, charge of those repairs. So there's no perfect way to get around this, but people are thinking about it in Harrisburg, and Todd certainly is focused on it. And so we'll keep you posted on that. I know Alex and Mike are looking at that very closely, and they're working directly with him on the language. So, thanks to PAR for all the work that they're doing there at the state level. If you go to our website to see the very latest regarding what we're doing, we've got a COVID-19 special section now. It's the first thing on our website. You can click on that and you can see what's happening. We're adding to that every day. Also stay tuned to our news briefs. Those are coming out on Fridays. And we really encourage you to read those news briefs to keep up, on pace with all the news that's breaking right now, especially the municipal news that's coming out. So we are staying on top of that. The last thing I'll say, two more things actually. Act 133 of 2016, which we've talked a lot about over the last few years, is still in place. It's still in force. Nothing has changed. And so if a municipality has done an initial inspection under Act 133, you should technically have a permit. You should have either a clear UNO, a temporary UNO, or a temporary access permit. If you don't have that in hand, we certainly will go to bat for you with the municipality and explain to them that under Act 133, you should be allowed one of those 3 certificates if you've already had that initial inspection by the municipality. So please call us if you've done that, you've gotten through that, yet you're not able to get in touch with the municipality, or they're refusing to issue one of those certificates, because we will certainly fight for that.
Question
Yes.
that's in line with what you're just talking about, and the question is, based on the temporary UNO permit, can buyers move into the house immediately after the settlement?
Which certificate, Pam? I'm sorry.
UNO, a temporary UNO. Under a temporary UNO, can they move in right after settlement?
Yes, there are 2 kinds of temporary UNOs. One is a temporary UNO when there's no substantial violation. And so that allows you to move into the home, and then you've got 12 months to make those repairs. The second temporary permit is something that we created a few years ago when this legislation was amended, and that's called a temporary access permit. That does not allow you to move into the home because there's something that makes that home unfit for habitation. So the good news is you can go to settlement. Bad news is, no, you cannot move into the home until that situation is corrected, whatever code violation that is that makes the home unfit. So those are the 2 temporaries that you're allowed. each of them is for 12 months, and you can make those repairs within 12 months.
Great. And we also have a question. They want to know the SRA phone number.
The best way to reach us now, the phone number is 610-981-9000. And we are checking our voicemail every day. The other way to reach us is in our general mailbox, which is SRA@suburbanrealtorsalliance.com. And we will get those pretty much immediately when you send them.
Thanks, Jamie.
The last thing I'll leave with you is that we have been in very close touch with each of our recorders of deeds, because that's another important component of our settlements. And Robin Robinson, who is the recorder in Bucks County, has been very, very responsive to our questions. They have said to us that they are accepting e-notaries. Now, I've heard contrary, and so if you do have an instance where they're not accepting an online notary, please let us know, because we'll contact them. They get right back to us. They've been great partners through this, and I know that they're doing everything that they can to make sure that deeds can be recorded in a safe and proper way. That's it for me. Thank you.
I know that Mike, Alex, and Jamie have back-to-back Zoom meetings, so we'll forgive you if you have to make an exit. And we thank you for your help with this.
So thank you very much to the three of you. And if anybody has any questions for Alex, Mike, or Jamie, please type them in now so that they can answer them before they have to leave for their next meeting. Thanks. So with that said, I'd like to introduce Brian Preston, Bright MLS's District Vice President. Thank you, Brian, and let me put up your link as you go. There you go.
Good morning, everyone. I want to thank everybody for letting me come on and talk to you guys a little bit. I just want to fill you in a little bit on the updates Bright has made to their system in response to this, and talk to you a little bit about the training opportunities that are available. So as everybody knows, as part of our COVID response, we recently added a virtual open house option under your open house in your listing management tool. This allows agents to host a virtual open house, and that gets sent out to all the portals as well. So it's a great way to, for your agents, if they want to conduct virtual open houses, they can enter the links there, and that gets sent out to all the portals. We've also relaxed our public remarks criteria to allow links for virtual tours, and those are sent out to the portals as well. And then starting, I believe it's in effect now, temporarily off markets are going to be syndicated out to IDX vendors. So for the time being, we'll be sending temporarily off markets. If you have an IDX vendor and you're not sure if they know about it, just you can reach out to me and I can connect you with the right people to make sure that they're there if you want to display temporarily off market listings on your website. We've also set up a webpage, brightmls.com/COVID-19. This full of great information, and thank you, Scott, for putting that there in the chat. It's a great information. It's got everything you need to know from market stats to training opportunities. I do want to talk a little bit about our training opportunities that we have available. We recently rolled out our Bright Steps program to take place during this lockdown. First thing we're doing is weekly webinars. We've done our first 3. We've done one on the new statuses. We've done one on how to conduct virtual open houses and virtual showings. And we've also done one on market stats. And if you or any of your agents want to miss those, they want to take a look, they can go to our YouTube channel. So just search on YouTube for Bright MLS and you'll find hundreds of training videos, including those videos that we put up recently. The next training on Tuesday is going to be Remind. If you don't know about Remind, it's a great resource, especially for your agents who are inside and have some time on their hands. It's a great way to get them prepared to build up their business to head into the next coming months. We've also created a new training called Managing Your Business in a Shutdown. So far, over 300 BCAR members have attended this training, either through BCAR trainings or office trainings, individual office trainings. If you want to set up these office trainings, we are available to do those for your office specifically whenever you're ready. Just reach out to me or Derek D'Angelini, who is your customer success coach for BCAR. Many of you know him. If you don't know him, you can reach, his last name is hard to spell, but I'm easy. So Brian.Preston@BrightMLS. If you need to reach me, I can connect you with Derek to set up a training. As far as activity, right now, active listing activity is still at 94% of its levels last year. So while it has dropped off, activity has not fallen completely off. There are people still doing business and active listings are still out there. On that COVID-19 page, you can connect to market stats. We're updating those twice weekly now to reflect, temporarily off markets, withdrawals and canceled, obviously active under contracts. It's a great resource for you to connect if your sellers have any questions about what's going on in the market, what's the best thing for them to do. Great resources there. And also we are offering a lot of virtual trainings online. So if you search for virtual trainings on the Bright website, you'll be taken to some resources there to tell you how you can manage your business in this process. So that's my quick update. If anyone has any questions, I am happy to answer.
Thanks, Brian. I just wanted to reiterate that we're having live Bright trainings every single week, and they're filling up, and we're really grateful for that opportunity for our members. So thank you very much for that. I have a couple of questions that came in that actually are for Alex. And Brian, what I'm going to do is ask folks who have Bright questions to type them in now, and we'll get back to them.
Yep.
But right now, Alex, we've had a couple of questions about handling situations where realtors are not following the stay-at-home rule. And the second question is that, I'll just read it to you. It says, our agent's biggest concern is that the agents that are still listing and selling houses and allowing showings. What's being done about this? When I call the agents, I've been told that the fine is that is commission earned. So, if you could give us some words of wisdom about real estate.
So the enforcement issue is actually a tough one for us. So we from PAR, we are not an authority, so we do not have an ability to penalize for activities. Some of the violations can be reported to the Real Estate Commission, but they only handle issues that are directly related to real estate violations. They don't necessarily handle issues that would be a violation of the governor's orders. Mike, I know you're a bit better versed in the penalties department, so I'm actually going to let it off to you. Unfortunately, you turned off your microphone, signaling that you'll take this one for me.
Well, and actually, Scott really addressed it. We just ran a Just Listed article about this, excuse me, where the Real Estate Commission is actually doing some testing, calling around to brokerages, offices. We've actually on one of our leadership calls where there was an agent and the person on the other end of the line was asking to see a property and was persistent about it. And when they refused to do a showing, the person at the end of the line said, well, great, you passed. So we do know, and we were advised by the BEI, which is the Bureau of Enforcement and Investigation, that they are testing people to find out if they're doing active showings in person. But again, not that we're in the business of enforcement, but it's the Real Estate Commission, the state police, local police, all have some level of jurisdiction to go after people. But to the person's point, whether this is in a pandemic or in, frankly, regular times, one of the things that we consistently hear about is the cost of getting caught is significantly lower than the benefit of breaking the law. So that's just an inherent problem we have, regardless of whether you're in a pandemic or a regular business environment. So that is a challenge.
So I would add that As Mike said, agents that are going to break the law are going to break it during a pandemic or any time. But you don't report them to the Real Estate Commission. You go to the PALS website on the Bureau of Professional and Occupational Affairs, and there's a complaint form there. I put the link over in the chat. So make sure that if you want to report somebody, you go there, but make sure before you report them that you know the full story, because we've gotten calls that they saw cars in a parking lot at an office, and we don't know, maybe they were doing an allowed closing there. It doesn't mean they were doing illegal activity there. So make sure that it's not just hearsay and that you actually have knowledge of it. But as far as the reporting, the indication is reported to the local police, not the emergency number, the regular number, or the state police. And they can follow up and do that. And then if you want to report them to the Real Estate Commission, you go through the PALS BPOA website.
Thanks, Scott. I have a question for Brian. The question is, of that 94% figure that you gave of listing activity, Brian, that includes New Jersey and Delaware. Do you have Pennsylvania specific numbers?
I can try to get Pennsylvania specific numbers. We don't have bulk numbers. We have, for instance, like new listing activity by state, but the overall activity hasn't been broken down by state. So that 94% includes West Virginia, Maryland, DC, Delaware, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. So yes, that is part of that. From the charts I've seen, you know, new listing activity is down since the lockdown, but new listing activity was way ahead of schedule in 2020 from where it was in 2019. So when we say it's down now in the last month or so, for the whole year, it has been well ahead of schedule. So the market is still moving along. People are still doing business. You know, listings are still going under contract. Listings are still settling. So the market is still moving along, albeit slower than it would be, obviously, if this hadn't been going on.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions people want to post? Now's your chance.
One thing for Bright, they have put out several different market updates overall for updates, and Showing Time has also put out their showings and showing where they dropped off from the governor's order. So there's a lot of good market information out there to be able to share with your agents and with your clients.
Yep, and you can find all that on the COVID page. We were updating those stats daily. It's we're doing it 2 times a week now. So if you go on that COVID page, all the information you'll need to share with your sellers to help them make the best decision for them is there.
That's a great segue for me, Brian, because I want to encourage all of our brokers and managers to visit the BCAR COVID page. And if you go to our homepage on the website, it's right there and you can click on it. And we've been working really hard to keep everyone informed. And I joke that we feel like we triage information a lot, but we want to get the information in one spot for you. So please visit our website on a regular basis and open those emails from us, because it's typically important information. So I want to thank everyone who participated, and it's been great for our members to have the opportunity to ask their questions. And if more questions come in after the fact, we will get them answered and get them out to everyone. And I encourage everyone to stay safe and stay in touch. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Pam.
Do you want to close us out?
So thanks everybody for participating. You can email us your questions. You can give Pam or myself a call. We want to hear from you. We want to know what's going on, and we want to be here for you. We're all in this together, as we've said, and we truly mean it. So we care about you. We want you to stay home, stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll get you back to work as soon as we can when we can do it safely. So thanks everybody for coming, and take care. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, everyone.